The Buffalo Bills might have a major Dalton Kincaid problem on their hands as the fourth-year tight end coming out of Utah is about to go into the 2026 season, already thinking about load management, and the season is still 5 months away. We're going to get into everything that you need to know when it comes to the Dalton Kincaid situation that has come out from the owners' meetings this past weekend. Before we get this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to this channel. And if this is your first time here, welcome to Smitty Talks Bills. I am your host, Smitty, where I talk Buffalo Bills content daily. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers before the NFL draft. So if you have not already, please make sure to subscribe to the channel down below because every single subscriber helps. We are at 932 subscribers, and 98% of you guys are still not subscribed. So please make sure to double check that you are subscribed. But let's get into the Dalton Kincaid news. And before we get into this, yes, I am standing up. I'm changing up the background just a little bit because sitting in the corner of my room recording these videos gets a little boring. But if the standing is going to be a problem, let me know in the comment section down below. But let's get into it. So just a couple of days ago, the Buffalo Bills officially announced that they picked up the fifth-year option on tight end Dalton Kincaid. I think a lot of Bills fans, including myself, were happy to see this news. The deal is worth $8.1 million, fully guaranteed for the 2027 season, which means that Dalton Kincaid will be locked up in Buffalo for at least the next 2 seasons. Now, when you get to after 3 years, players are eligible for contract extensions. We already saw one for JSN with the Seattle Seahawks, who signed a 4-year deal worth about $42 million on average per season. Obviously, when it comes to Dalton Kincaid, he will not be getting that type of money, but it is time for a Dalton Kincaid extension. And we go into this next tweet right here that we see from Pat McAfee. He was at the owners' meetings and he was interviewing a bunch of GMs and head coaches, as he always does. And as per usual, Brendan Beane went on his show. And Tone Diggs right here was asking Brendan Beane about Dalton Kincaid, about picking up his fifth-year option. Does that mean that a pick is successful? And then unprompted, Brendan Beane brought up the fact that extensions are now in play for these kinds of players who are going into their 4th year in the NFL. So, what does that mean? The Bills are definitely taking a look at extending a guy like Dalton Kincaid. But before we do that, we have to get into some reservations about Dalton Kincaid, specifically his knee injury that has hindered him going back to the 2024 NFL season, where Josh Allen overthrew him on a deep ball against the Indianapolis Colts. He ended up tearing his PCL. It looks like he has a grade 2 sprain, but we'll get into all of that in just a little bit. After the 2024 season, he was banged up all towards the end of the year, and because of that, he did not play his best down the stretch. In 2025, he was playing a decent bit here and there, but he was also on the injury list basically every other week with a knee injury. And towards the end of the season, once December came around, Kincaid went on the injury report with a knee injury, and it was a DNP. And when Sean McDermott was asked about it in a press conference, he said that Dalton Kincaid, this is not a new knee injury. This dates back to that 2024 injury that he never got surgery on, which Bills fans, I think, kind of assumed that he would have gotten surgery on that PCL, but he never ended up getting surgery. And then because of that, he had to play through the pain all of last year and missed a ton of time. And now going into this offseason, he said once again, Kincaid, he's not getting surgery. He's going to play through the pain. So Dalton Kincaid, a lot of questionable decisions when it comes to that knee injury. But he is still a big part of this Bills offense, and Joe Brady got into that at the owners' meetings just a couple of days ago. Actually, this was just yesterday. John Scott tweets out, Joe Brady echoing Brendan Beane with how important Dalton Kincaid is to the Bills offense. Brady explaining how they're approaching managing Kincaid to help keep him healthy and available on game days. So like I said, they're already talking about load management when it comes to Dalton Kincaid. But this part where Joe Brady is saying how Kincaid is super important to the Bills offense, that's not a lie. When you guys take a look at Dalton Kincaid's PFF page, it is absolutely outstanding. When he was healthy, when he was on the field, he had an 81.9 overall grade, which is 3rd best out of all tight ends in the NFL, and an 81.9 receiving grade, which is 7th best out of all tight ends in the NFL. And as for season stats, he had 49 targets for 39 receptions, 571 yards, and 5 receiving touchdowns. And to be completely honest with you guys, as a Kincaid fan, I'm kind of underwhelmed by those statistics. And while it isn't the worst season, and it's especially considering the fact that the Bills' offense was kind of passed by committee, there wasn't a number 1 receiving option. This is actually pretty good stats for Kincaid, but you still want to see more. And I'll show you guys why I want to see more. So we'll take a look at these stats down here on the left side of your screen. That's what I want you guys to pay attention to. You guys will see that out of all the pass snaps, He had the 37th most out of all tight ends in the NFL, which was the dead last. He ranked dead last out of all tight ends and pass snaps. When it comes to targets, he had 49, which is 29th among all tight ends. He had 37th in routes run, which is 205. Once again, dead last among all tight ends. And in receptions, 39, which was 29th amongst all tight ends. Receiving yards, 571, which was 16th among all receiving tight ends. So he's still in that back half of tight ends when it comes to production. And then receiving touchdowns, he had 5, which was 11th best, which is a pretty good number. But we take a look at the deeper numbers when it comes to Dalton Kincaid. He is outstanding, and he could be in production-wise, if he could stay healthy, stay on the field, he'd be one of the best tight ends in all the NFL, without a doubt. When you go to his drops, he only had 2 drops last year, which was 8th best among all tight ends. He had the most yards per reception with 14.6. He had the 3rd most yards after catch per reception with 6.7. And he had the first passer rating best when targeted with 149.2. If you guys are not aware, the best pass rating a quarterback could have is, I believe, 158, something like that. And average depth of target, 9.5 yards ADOT. So that means that, every time he's getting targeted, he's on average 9.5 yards down the field. So Kincaid, when you take a look at the deeper numbers when it comes to him, he can be one of the top receiving guys, not only on the Buffalo Bills, but in the entire NFL. He could have that Travis Kelce type of production that he was being comped to when he was coming into the NFL. And now we know when it comes to tight ends, they take a little bit more time to develop when they come to the NFL, just because of the big difference it is from college to the NFL when it comes to tight ends. But Kincaid, he's clearly implemented himself as one of the best receiving options at tight end in the NFL. The issue is just that he's injured. And so let's deep dive that injury just a little bit more. So, Thigh Doctor on X, one of the best follows when it comes to Bills injuries. If you guys are a Bills fan, I definitely recommend following this account on X. He's the absolute best. So he says, read Kincaid PCL. PCLs generally heal well. Surgery has complications. PCL is complex anatomically, barring it being fully torn grade 3. Rehab is the answer. So while Bills fans are all up in arms about Kincaid not getting surgery and just playing through the pain, Thigh Doctor, who knows what he's talking about, he says that when it comes to a PCL injury, unless it is grade 3, absolutely worst, fully torn, there's no reason to get surgery because it can only have complications, and rehab is the answer. So Kincaid, while I was critical and many Bills fans are critical, this is just something that he's going to have to deal with. He could do biologics like PRP. Just hope it doesn't tweak again, but it might. So when it comes to Dalton Kincaid, the issue that we're facing here is that there's no real way for him to just fix this knee problem. He can't just go into surgery and everything is all well again. The problem with Dalton Kincaid is because of the fact that he has to just play through this, he's going to consistently be playing year after year with the fear that if he tweaks his PCL once again, he can be knocked out for a couple of games, if not maybe an entire season if he fully tears it. Then you would have to end up getting surgery, but even then, I read somewhere that when you have surgery like that on a PCL, it doesn't really return to full form. It just gets like a little bit better and something that you have to deal with still and pain manage. So Kincaid's knee, at this point, while it is a good thing that he doesn't need surgery and he could just do rehab so that he's not taking the wrong approach, but the problem is his knee is going to be at great risk literally every single game to get re-injured. So Kincaid, as much as I want him to get more snaps on the field, more targets, his body might not be able to do it. And that is where the concerns come in for me when it comes to Dalton Kincaid, especially because he's such a young player still. And if you want to extend him, you're going to have to pay him top dollar because of the production he has had in the NFL. And I'll bring it back up on the screen right here. Because of how good of a player that he is when healthy, when he's on the field, it's hard to, for him not to request top dollar. But the issue is because of his knee injury, there's a lot of concern when it comes to Kincaid staying healthy on the field. But Bills fans, we might have a major Dalton Kincaid problem with his injuries. But Bills fans, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below on the Dalton Kincaid knee injury and what you believe the situation and the outcome will be when it comes to Kincaid. Are you confident in giving him an extension? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you have made this far into the video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to this channel. Once again, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so every single subscriber helps. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.